G'day there. It's Dr. Rich Mclean sitting here in my squat, and I've got a lease, but it's a squat. This is my whistleblowing page, killing.info, because I believe now in retrospect that I was set up to be killed and ostracised and rejected and gaslighted, neglected, and it's been over a year on since my what was deemed a successful suicide attempt due to the hospital freedom of information, which the government and a lot of agencies condoned. There's nothing to see. And further, as a person who is supposed to have rights and human rights, and the Charter of Human Rights for people with disabilities has been smashed to smithereens in terms of me, and also my human rights have been appallingly desecrated, that it's clear to me now that there's a conspiracy to avert the course of justice, which is attacking me via proxy, via government agencies. This has resulted in my detriment of many millions of dollars. And this has never been about money for me. It's been about freedom from oppression and a life that's worth living with dignity and humanity. It's also framed by a few genesis points. My former partner, an ASIO agent, owing me over $500,000. We're still hiding. There's a legitimate case I had before that I could not get justice for, which I didn't realise until after my suicide attempt. I'd been framed as an extortionist by his lawyer. And then again, there's my public profile of someone who has identified with mental illness in the past, and wrote a very courageous and very brave post-feminist book, an autobiography in which the Herald Sun vilified me. I was crucified, at the same time congratulated and given a human rights award, but then I lost my job, and I've lived an uphill battle in my life from the very beginning. Now, I've persevered, and I've persevered after my suicide attempt in hospital, which was condoned by the government and covered up and whitewashed as nothing to see, despite a gentle offer of my atonement that had even happened. And presently I'm rejected or ostracised, banned, whatever you want, from police. I am, in my last 30 years, I've only had one lawyer, and they've been opposed to me in the end. Sadly, it's not just money I've lost all my friends and family, and because the very movement to exploit me and rob me of prosperity, which is in order, I think, to aid and abet my death by my own vagrancy, is occurring, and it's not just lost in money, it's lost in first of all, I think brain injury from losing all my blood. I can't feel my feet, and I have troubles formulating my thoughts. So I'm banned from police, banned from a lawyer, and banned from a public interest disclosure, and banned from being a whistleblower at APRA, ASIC, and the Commonwealth Ombudsman. The date is, where is it? The 21st of March. It's 2022. I've lived for the last year in utter poverty, and I've begged, pleaded, and borrowed my way through it on about $50 or $60 a week. It's not a life fit for someone who is anyone really, but especially who has given their life in altruism to help other people more marginalised than themselves. But seeing as I've been absolutely and utterly catastrophically framed and character assassinated is what has happened here, the following is obvious. A conspiracy to pervert the course of justice occurred both before and after my suicide attempt. A heinous and ungodly victimisation has occurred that has not only illegally incarcerated me, leading me to more malpractice and mistreatment, and was the location of my suicide attempt, but it has aided and abetted my death by robbing me of prosperity and dignity, and really robbing me of any human value. That's what it's done, and I'm still alive. I'm still okay. I've got a dog. I try and get by every day with my advocacy stuff, and I've launched this website, killing.info. It's about my story, and it contains unequivocal evidence of the conspiracy to pervert the course of justice, and it also contains utterly undeniable evidence that people of public office who should know better, that there actually is responsibilities that they must adhere to that don't go outside the human rights legislation, and they must follow the Charter of Human Rights for people with disabilities. Now, as a person who is character assassinated and who has been utterly, I'm an infamous vagrant now. I sometimes can't believe it's happening to me. I feel like I'm in the Truman Show or something. I must have something to say for them to want to silence me so much. And you can't silence my voice. I have sentience. It's not about money. I've had death threats at the door, and even a couple of nights ago I've been set up, and for years I've been set up to fail, and for years I've been the subject of prejudice, discrimination, gaslighting, ostracisation, toxic scapegoating, and neglect. I've written to ministers, including Greg Hunt, who originally silenced some evidence when I was trying to bring it to his attention. He rejects me to the NDIA. I've spoken to the NDIA Minister, Reynolds, and she condones my vagrancy and supports that the last 42 of my invoices haven't been paid. I've never had a lawyer. I can't go to police. I've spoken to Finance Minister Birmingham, his office. I tried to get my freedom of information collectively from everywhere. So I asked the Prime Minister's office. I never would have thought I would even brush shoulders with the guy. Turns out there's thousands upon thousands of incidences that the Prime Minister has there, because he has to follow legislation. I didn't permit him to have an extension to my birthday in order to collect that information, but I think they do as they damn well please. So this is my story, and Killing.info is a whistleblowing website because I'm a banned whistleblower in all agencies, and in 3 days I have been fighting for my rights as a person who was injured at work from distress, and I did protect myself from anything that could happen at work. However, it occurred to me via my 2 framed VOCAT cases, and by me doing a VOCAT case for my client, and I've always worked helping other people, is that my work was rendered illegitimate and I went on stress leave. Now, further to that, I lost $75,000 from HCF, along as with $500,000 from former partner who threatened to hitman on me. I was ripped off at the Australian Human Rights Centre. over $1 million now I could have used with my acquired brain injury for that TPD and income assist, which was discriminated from me and not given to me by a super company, which the Australian Human Rights Centre free kicked to the other team at a conciliation. I realise the government is in the way of that because I actually contacted them personally after the Australian Human Rights Centre oppressed me or used omissions to deny my justice and my prosperity. And I called them straight up and said, can I have a conciliation? And it was done. Now, I also, at that time, before and after my suicide, was denied, delayed, deferred. It's like jobs and growth, isn't it? My overdue determinations from AFCA. They blackmailed me. I was supposed to have my things seen to in 4 weeks as a marginalised person, and I've never had one advocate who isn't biased to stick up for me, and I've never had a lawyer. Now, in that time, I tried to engage a few people to liaise with AFCA. However, as they were delaying and deferring, I became distressed, and it became clear that my instinct was right, that a conspiracy to pervert the course of justice from the very top was occurring. And I called them out, and they dropped the case. There goes $1.5 to $2 million. In the same vein, I was rejected by Comcare, AFCA, all these people under the Attorney General's office, Michaelia Cash. I wrote to her and I explained all of this, and I explicitly said there is some corruption going on, such as Paul Fowler from Comcare. I tried to get help from WorkSafe to lodge my application, but they kept forwarding me to Comcare. Nearly 10 months later, and a lot of setting me up to fail and never getting anywhere, gaslighting, ostracising, rejecting, absolutely playing a wicked game of making me suffer and causing detriment and aiding and abetting my death by hitting me in the hip pocket, knowing that I was homeless, knowing that I didn't have enough food or could look after myself. And that's still going on. And in 3 days' time, and Paul Fowler used to be the head at WorkSafe. What a coincidence. Smells like corruption to me. In 3 days' time, I have to go to write a letter to public officials and people at the AAT who are at a directions hearing and then a hearing to hear why I've been rejected under the SRC Act. Not that I understand, but I've tried to educate myself on the legislation as best I can, having been barred from getting a lawyer from anywhere. And my advocate, who is trying to be helping me, apparently, but has now I've researched, has worked for the DHS, Jeffrey Tricker. He will send an email to the AAT that has to come from somewhere other than me, because they know they've successfully isolated me. Now, it has to come from someone else of authority, and it has to come from someone who can sign it and oppose that this hearing go ahead against the Human Rights Charter for people with disabilities, that I should have equal and access to litigation. The government, having already aided and abetted my death, set me up to fail. Hey, I killed myself, but it wasn't entirely on the merits of me that suicide happened. And it's too late for the government to backpedal and say, we are complicit in this conspiracy to manslaughter or murder. And it's too late for me to travel back in time and undo the comedy of errors and stuff that led me to this situation. Therefore, I offer a an atonement with the government, that all I'm asking for, while you work out the detriment for the CDD scheme, is an above average wage paid immediately. That is because right now, on this date, tomorrow, I'm homeless. That is because this abhorrent conspiracy to pervert the course of justice, which I easily prove on this page, and the pure victimisation and the abhorrent, malicious, conscious nature of it, that has damned me and exploited the very vulnerabilities that already exist in society to turn my friends and family against me, and which has pushed my very human value to the edge of the apocalypse. It's been a heinous year, but since my suicide, especially marred with a brain injury now. But look, I'm expected to act at the AAT with, and the government's already literally killed me over years, and now they've got a 25-year experienced lawyer to kick me in the head when I go unaided into the AAT before a jury and a public official who should know better, overseen by an Attorney General who already has been made aware of the corruption and has denied intervening in this issue, even though she has full capacity to do so. I believe, because the last time I was hospitalised, which was for a stupid reason, from a I love my family, but they've got some extreme prejudices and homophobia going on with my choices or lifestyle, whatever. Jealous, perhaps, I don't know. And they hospitalised me because I'd called them out on what they've witnessed happen. And they saw that as me being crazy. No one's ever seen the justice side issued of it. Everyone's always pathologized me of someone who has aspired or agreed to a label prior in life. And I was hospitalised, and a psychiatrist, Dr. Johan there, part of the system, told me, and I have proof of this too, I've been framed not only as a rapist and an extortionist and a pedophile and a dog rooter and all sorts of other heinous things that have turned one after one after one after one people away from me, my lovers, my support networks, my family, my friends. I don't know how they do it. It's a mystery to me. But he threatened that he would keep me an award of the state at Her Majesty's pleasure, and that evidence is on this site too. And I believe that the methodology of this whole thing, the end game, is to try and get me so upset and distressed that I lose my shit, and they hospitalise me and frame me with a crime that's half believable and that will incarcerate me forever. I am abhorrently disgusted by that, and I oppose any action to bring that to light. Now, I've proven on this site beyond reasonable doubt that I can't go to police, I can't be a whistleblower, I can't get a lawyer, I have no agency to act, I have no voice, I have no rights, and my dignity has been ground into an absolute nutshell. This is from a person who has spent the best part of 25 years advocating for people, has a human rights award, a PhD, a master's degree in education, and has put great effort into advocating for the youth of this country, and has advocated from all the TV and radio stations to Parliament House to Dubbo to Montreal, Japan, had a film made about his life, and a human rights award winning book. This isn't about money for me. It's about freedom from oppression and living a simple life with my dog and atoning some lost ground with my friends who have all been turned against me. I asked the government to indulge me in a wage until you work out the detriment. Otherwise, the public will have to support me as more detriment in order to take this to the High Court. There's no other option. It's Dr. Richard Mclean. Please help me. Please look at the stuff on killing.info. And if you can't help someone, at least don't hurt them. And I think if you hurt them via being paid as a proxy to kick the can down the line, that's cowardice. I'm not a coward. I know what I'd die for, and I know what I'd live for. I love life. I'm not suicidal. And I want a simple life away from oppression. Thanks for listening.